Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. Sometimes these opposition previews come along at the right time because it goes hand in hand with sort of news in football. You can get their perspective on it. So I'm looking forward to this one, Tom, but how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm not bad at all, Jay. Are you keeping well yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for joining me again. But let's kick off with the usual question. What do you make of your season so far?
Not so great. Not as good as last season. Obviously, we've had the issues with, obviously, a huge amount of teams have been hit with injuries this year, but we've been pretty decimated from a first team point of view. So, we're sort of just getting back to now, sort of, I guess, a good starting 11. But throughout the season, we've just had a number of players out and about, obviously including Mr. Ivan Toney's betting ban. We obviously got him back now, but it's not been great, to be honest. It's been pretty, sort of us. I think the start of the season was really good. We pushed on well at the start, and then sort of, I think the last was maybe 2 wins in the last 10 games now, which is not so great, and sort of away from the relegation zone, but more poor opposition in the bottom 3 rather than, I guess, being it's not so much of a competitive season, luckily for us, I think, this year. So a bit more lucky this year than we have been the past 2 seasons.
Have you ever been worried about relegation at all this season?
I think not so much, but I think we've been quite lucky this year. So, obviously with Burnley and Sheffield United being so, literally rock bottom at the moment and so far off of the pace. And then obviously with the fact that Everton have got their points deduction at the moment, potentially with a second, Nottingham Forest being similarly in there. And we've sort of kept ourselves far enough away from it, I think. Obviously Luton have been playing better last few games, which have made it a little bit more scary. But I think it's coming to the point where Luton have started playing better and we've started getting players back fit and we're looking a bit more secure now, I'd say. Last night result being a good one for it.
Every time I speak to you, you're a big fan of Thomas Frank. Is that still the same?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those where, the team's been hit more so with injuries and he's sort of, at one point we're playing sort of centre defender midfielders, as left backs. Left wingers are being utilised as right right backs. It's just sort of all over the place, really. And it's, it's been a struggle to get out of the first fit 11. I think yesterday's probably the strongest 11 we've had so far, and that's still missing sort of a few key players, I'd say.
Yeah, I've got to say, I don't think I've seen you field your starting 11 yet this season. You can't really, because Tony's been unavailable, and since he's come back, Hickey's been unavailable, and I would argue those two in your starting 11. So you're possibly never going to see your strongest 11 at all this season, because Hickey's not due back till the end of it, really, because that's what I'm keeping an eye on with the Euros up ahead. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, get this guy back here, please. Thank you very much. Right then. One of the reasons I've been looking forward to is two. One, Ivan Toney, will get on to him. But first of all, the news that came out sort of today that Brentford fans have probably been aware of for some time, perhaps, is the club sort of going up for sale. What is the news regarding that from people that perhaps don't know anything that's going on?
To be honest, it's relatively new news for most people. I don't think anyone's sort of really heard about it. It'd be massively disappointing, the fact that I think it's one of those where maybe Matthew Benham's taking it to a level where he feels, I'm not sure whether, is he looking to sell it completely or part of it? I know we sold a section of it earlier, I think last year. I think he's sold a section of the club. The fact he's a fan of Brentford, I think he'll still keep an interest in it, and whether he wants to, keep part of it. But I guess for me, obviously, it'd be a massive shame for him to go, or him to not be involved, because him being a fan, he's taken us to where we are now, and obviously, that's massive from his point of view. So,
do you think it's the right thing for him to do? Because when I read the statement, it's obviously putting Brentford's best interests at the heart of it, which is, well, he's not saying he's incapable of taking you to another level, but sort of suggesting that perhaps somebody with more finances available could come in and take you up that level. So do you think it's the right thing to do, or do you think the right thing would be for him to remain and have a Brentford fan in charge of the club? And like you said, he's been fantastic for you so far.
Investment's obviously important. Obviously, money's such a major factor in Premier League football now. If you look at sort of the majority of clubs, I think we're still to this day one of the lowest spending clubs in the league. It's what can he afford to put into the club? Whereas, with outside investment, whether it's again, I don't know whether his intention is to sell the whole club, parts of the club, just to get outside investment, whether he keeps sort of maybe some control of what's going on. I think it's one of those, as long as the main and key people stay, and I guess the ethos of how we've got to where we've got so far, and that doesn't change, then I think we'll be fine. There's all, he's not going to be the owner forever, I guess is the best way to put it. And so at some point there has to be change. But as long as they keep the same sort of, I guess, ethos of how they've got there in the first place, then hopefully we'll be just fine.
All right, last question, and potentially a silly one regarding this. Would you not have concerns? Let's just say he sold up completely, hypothetically. He sold up and walked away from Brentford. It's now in the hands of an American company, Saudi, whatever. It's now in the hands of people who don't support Brentford. Would you not have concerns regarding FFP? Because you look at the situation Everton are in, Nottingham Forest could be in, Wolves are borderline on the edge of it as well. At the minute, you've got this guy who you would assume would never plunder Brentford into any danger of crossing that line. But you're not worried that somebody could come in and sort of rock what is quite a steady ship, risk the future of Brentford?
I mean, I think the interesting one that I saw when the profitability came out this year from us is, I think in the last 2 seasons, we've been more profitable than Man United have been in the last 10 or something like that. It's a crazy stat. And so obviously, there's always that worry for, I think a lot of clubs at the moment with obviously, what revenue versus what you can actually spend. Obviously, with us being a smaller club, our revenue is never going to be the likes of, sort of your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Man Cities, what have you, your West Hams. But it's one of those where, I think he'll do his due diligence where it won't be the best offer makes him sell the club because he's a fan. I think he'll make sure that the right people are taken over from his position. It won't just be, you want to spend another 50 million than the next person, here's the keys sort of thing. I think the fact that he's a fan himself means that he'll try at least to make sure that we're being put in the best possible position for us and the club going forward.
Yeah, so you're probably not going to see a situation like Birmingham fans seen when our current owner sold their club and the new owner ended up in jail for fraud.
We can hope not anyway.
Right, but Ivan Toney then, I mean, I wouldn't say I forgot how good this guy is, but bloody hell, he comes back. He's been missing for half a season. You're thinking, how long is he going to take to get up to speed? Well, no time. He scored a hat-trick behind closed doors before he officially comes back in, and he's just been incredible. But the thing I'm interested to ask you, Tom, is he doesn't have to work for a move away, does he? Does it annoy you as a Brentford fan, or do you just accept it because it's sort of realistic? Or what's your take on the way that Tony's been speaking about a move away?
I don't sort of hate how he's done it, if that makes sense. I think it's one of those where it's almost fans away from the club see it as, he's talking bad about the club like that. And whereas I think Brentford have always been of the opinion, we have always assumed that, if he is given the opportunity. I mean, Thomas Frank was very clear when he signed Ivan Toney. They actually told him in his first season, we can be a stepping stone for you to the Premier League. If we don't go up this season, then all you have to do is prove you're good enough. And as you can see with the likes of Ollie Watkins, Neil Maupay, although he's done full circle and ended up back with us. But, there's strikers that have gone on to sort of jump to higher levels. He's clearly a fantastic player and can score goals in our system. I wouldn't be, I can't imagine how he can't score goals in other systems. I don't think he's an incredibly versatile player. But for me, I don't see it as, I think the way he's gone about it isn't as bad as people say it is. I heard one interview where he said, his dream move would be, he's been said it numerous times, he's a Liverpool fan. So his dream move would be to Liverpool. He mentioned about obviously Arsenal, and obviously with Arsenal playing how they're playing at the moment and don't have really a key number 9 up top, you can't really blame him for mentioning that. And Thomas Frank said in his most recent press conference, we're more than likely going to have to sell him in summer, to which they asked him in the interview afterwards. And I think it's one of those where the media twists exactly what they want it to sound like. So they've, Ivan Toney very flippantly and very jokingly said, well, he clearly doesn't want me, which if you listen to it, it's clearly a joke. And the media go, Ivan Toney comes out and says that basically Brentford don't want him and he's going to go in summer. And it's like, well, no, that's not exactly what he said. He's just making light of how the media spin it. And, he's been on the end of lots of media attention, we'll say, in mainly negative ways since the betting scandal. And we've supported him all the way through that. Obviously, he's been unable to train with the club, but from other interviews he's had, he's mentioned how supportive we've been, and obviously he mentioned immediately in sort of the interviews afterwards that he's no planning on leaving. He's during this sort of January period, he had no intention of that. But obviously the media were on, he's going to move, he's going to leave, and he made it clear that he wasn't. But still, media tried to spin it in that sort of way. So no, I'm absolutely fine with how he's been, and have no issues really.
A very well reasoned response. I've seen him sort of look at it two ways, because I look at it emotionless. And part of me was thinking, well, he's driving the price up for Brentford, I guess. He's almost enticing a bidding war, which is ideal for Brentford. If they're going to sell him, that the more clubs at the table, the better. We discovered that with Declan Rice, the fact that Arsenal was sort of the only one there. Then Man City came in and it sort of bumped the price up and sped negotiations up a little bit. If it wasn't for that bid from Man City, you do wonder if we would have got our 105 million. So the more bidding, the better. And I guess what Tony's doing is sort of building up that interest in him through his comments, and Thomas Frank made on he's available as well. And I seen his interview where he said, I guess Thomas Frank doesn't want me, and he did it with a smile and a laugh. And then you see the written press put, Thomas Frank doesn't want him. Oh, bloody hell, is it?
Yeah.
No wonder footballers don't have much personality anymore. You show a little bit of it, and they take it away from you straight like that. For any West Ham fan that hasn't seen much of Brentford recently, who's the players in form? Bar Ivan Toney, who should we be looking out for?
I mean, obviously, Reguilon's just joined us, obviously on loan from Tottenham. Has looked good in the few games that he's had, to be honest. It's sort of one of those where, Rico Henry being out for the rest of the season, we needed someone to come in at left back. So he's sort of needed to play there. Mark Flecken in goals actually performing a lot better than he was at the start of the season. I think it was he was getting a lot of, again, media attention and a lot of, I'd say, abuse. I'd say mainly rightly for his performance at the start of the season, but he seems to have settled in much better now. Performances have been much better. Midfield three is back to how it should be. More of a defensive setup against City it was yesterday, but I assume you'll see Matthias Jensen coming back into the fold against yourselves, which will be a welcome attack and return. And obviously, we've had Johan Visser come back from AFCON, who was an AFCON team of the tournament, actually. So wasn't having the best of seasons up until that point. Has gone away to AFCON, looked brilliant in the games that I watched of Democratic Republic of Congo. But hopefully, fingers crossed, he comes back and starts performing as he was playing in Africa. So,
right, from your team to my team, what do you make of West Ham?
Yeah, I mean, start of the season, you've been flying, haven't you? It's just obviously the last few games, it sort of turned a little bit and not gone so well. To be honest, I think at the start of the season, there was talk for, obviously, we top of the league at the start of the season. People were talking about top four, weren't they? And
the mainstream media, perhaps. There's not too many West Ham fans talking about the top four.
No, I mean, I think for me, watching, obviously, again, big selling, I guess a good example potentially from what we'll do in summer with selling Ivan Toney, with you selling Declan Rice and the signings you guys made. I thought they were all excellent signs. They've all been fantastic. I really like Edson Alvarez, actually. I think he's been really good. Bowen seems to have found his form that was lacking a little bit from last year. Obviously, dropped off the last couple of games, but I think we've picked a good time to play you at the moment with how you're playing at the moment. But whether you're saving yourself for another European glorious cup run this year, we'll see. So,
do you think we could? Do you think we could, Tom?
I don't see why not. I think the only problem this year, I guess, you've got is the level of competition you've got in the Europa League is obviously going to be higher than what you've got in the Conference League. Obviously, you've got, the two obviously standouts. You've got Bayer Leverkusen, who are currently walking the Bundesliga, and obviously Liverpool, who are playing well with the amount of injuries they got at the moment. Also, may falter slightly and give you guys obviously a better opportunity. But those two teams obviously are going to be massive opposition. But again, I guess similar to last year, it's a cup competition. Anything can happen, and I guess you guys are in the perfect position where it's probably your best chance of smashing Europe again, isn't it? So putting fully into it and getting a good cup run going is never a bad thing. So
right then, Monday night, how do you see this one going?
We've got quite a good record at your place, and it's one of those where I think it's working perfectly for us, I guess, and it's the perfect time to play you guys. Obviously coming off two, I guess, pretty bad defeats. we were pretty good against Liverpool for the first 35 minutes until that Nunes stunner. And then against Man City yesterday, I thought we were really, really good, to be honest. Defensively, didn't put a foot wrong apart from until Christopher couldn't put his foot down.
His left foot.
Yeah, absolutely. But other than that, defensively, I think against City, we were much, much better than we have been in previous games, finally getting a solid sort of back five in that game, whether we stick with the back five against yourselves. But with Toney back, could be a good game. It'll be interesting. Obviously, you guys need to bounce back, and obviously we're in a sort of, we've had an up and down run of it with obviously some tough games in between a couple of victories recently. So I'm not sure at the moment. Obviously it could go one of two ways, but I think it's going to be quite close. Yeah,
you've impressed me recently. I've seen quite a lot of Brentford actually recently. He played Man City twice in a short space of time. Liverpool in the middle of that. Just before that, I've seen your game against Spurs as well. And you've been quite impressive actually. And even though there's one player, I just don't. Your right wing back Roslav, I just don't get him. I don't like him. I don't think he's very good. I keep watching, thinking there's got to be something about him because I just have this assumption that every player Brentford signs and plays is going to be good because of the detail that goes into recruitment. And since he's come on the scene, I'm still waiting to see something from him other than an 80s hairdo. I think you've got one of the most underrated. Well, I say underrated players. That may be a bit too far. But I really like Jensen. I don't think he gets enough plaudits. But Roslav next to him, I just think I just don't get him as a right wing back.
I think we're missing Hickey really there. To be honest, he's always been sort of, obviously he's still incredibly young, and there's the fact he's played so many games for Brentford in the Premier League in a short space of time. You know, when you've got sort of the level of Hickey, obviously with him being injured, Hickey would play if he was fit. So he's sort of currently having to make do, I guess, with Roslav. Going forward, not too bad. Defensively, I think he's a bit of a mess. And that's why I think we've seen a lot more of a back five this year from Brentford. Obviously, the amount of injuries we've had with having no Rico Henry, obviously having no left back, obviously until Reguilon's joined us, who isn't the most defensively sound left back in the world, as we know from his time at Spurs and United. But same with Roslav from the other side, really. And so having that back three behind him, it does give him a bit more protection because his heart and soul's always in the right place. He always gives 100%, but his 100% isn't obviously to the level of someone like Aaron Hickey, for example.
That's all right. We don't attack anyway. You don't need fullbacks when you play us. You could probably just play out wingers at fullback and just attack us. You'd be all right. Any final words about the game from yourself, Tom? But can I get your crystal ball out for a second, please? And can I get a score prediction off you?
I'm always positive, so we'll go with. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for us. Because I mean, I think your issue so far, you've been lacking with Paqueta out. I think has been the main one, isn't it? With just lacking getting those goals from open play at the moment. So I think we'll sit quite deep, but hit you guys on the counter, which we've been playing pretty well at the moment. So I'm going to go with 2-0, maybe slightly overexcited with that one.
I don't think you're going to get much disagreements with that score prediction, actually, from West Ham fans. The way that you just said how you think you'll play, well, it's arguably how Nottingham Forest played against us, and it worked a treat, really. I think if Thomas Frank was watching that game, which I suspect he would have been happy, because usually there's a bit of a benefit to a team not playing midweek coming up against an opponent that has played midweek, but there's no benefit because you play Tuesday, you play again Monday. So usually there's something. If you were playing Saturday, I might say, hey, you've got a slight advantage over. We've got a small advantage there, but there's no advantage. The advantage of you playing and us not playing is gone because of the fixtures. But anyway, Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate it as always.
Pleasure. No, thanks for having me.
And if you guys at home have enjoyed it, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. If you want to see and hear more from Tom, I'll put all the links to his social media in the description below. Please do subscribe if you're new to Harris Chat. I'll catch you in a bit.